And the story really starts with the story of economic development in Victoria. And for those who don't know, the shorthand version of our departmental name is just economic development, in case if your hand gets tired writing the alternative version. And what you see on the screen are 5 drivers and probably 5 themes that the government is placing itself around in terms of its policy positions and ultimately its investments for economic development. Now, these are not particular to agriculture, these are across any sector of interest, but I thought it'd be useful to put these up because over the next several years, it is these that will drive those decisions, and if you have a sense of these, it might help you to make sense of what comes out. Probably what's up there hopefully doesn't surprise, because they are the kind of statements you would probably expect to see. But one, if I can take you, perhaps particularly for us, if I take you to item 4, better connect Victoria to national and global markets. And I will come back to this because it is an area of growing interest for the state and for our department. And one of the rationales for our department is growing our investment and activity in that area, but also being quite clever about it. And that's where days such as today are so important, that when engaging in trade development, whether inbound or outbound, there's a lot of activity you can do and there's a lot of resource you can expend. And so the challenge is to do it in a way that's efficient and particularly effective. I think many of you will be hearing from our Minister tonight, so I won't preempt her speech, but you would have noted through the election and through the budget quite a number of commitments that I'm sure she'll go through in more detail. Some of the commitments, and in fact probably most for agriculture, are of particular interest to horticulture. And one that I will talk about, which came out of the budget, wasn't specified from memory as an election commitment, was a commitment to funding our biosecurity effort. And I will tag that one because one of the things you will see emerge over the coming period is a larger emphasis and perhaps a larger visibility for those who might have argued it had been a bit less around our biosecurity effort and focusing that on trade and market access. And I think it's not something that's new, it's always been there, but it's an angle that I'm very keen to progress, and the Minister and Government are very keen to progress, because it goes to the question of why do we make an effort in areas of biosecurity. And whether it's about international markets or domestic, it doesn't really matter. The point is so much of what we do in that area and that part of the department is actually about market access. We don't do it just because. And that's a commitment we'll be putting on the table, and we'll be inviting you through today's discussions to help shape that. A little on the department. Who are we? We use this with our staff as well as external people. I guess what I can say there, and you'll hear again tonight, agriculture is at the heart of this department. And in fact, if you look at some metrics such as headcount, we are in fact the largest part of this department. So around 1,250 people came down the hill, as we say, from DEPI to form this department. The vast majority of those people are nowhere near Spring Street, by the way. They're all here and across the state. There are 100 or 150 in Melbourne. So we are at the heart of this department, and that's because agriculture and the food and fibre sectors are at the heart of economic development opportunities for this state. So it is a question that comes up commonly, and some may wish to ask through the day or tonight, but that is the answer. It's the answer that will keep being given, and it's because it's true, that agriculture is at the heart of the opportunities for this state. I'd also point out, and you see at the bottom there, we are quite a diversified department. A lot of the regional diversity, of course, is the agriculture part. We do have a large budget. To be honest, most of that goes to transport. I'd love for agriculture to have a proportional share of the $8 billion. But when you're building roads and running rail systems and trams, obviously there's a lot of money goes that way. However, it does give an indication of one of the opportunities that comes out of this department for agriculture. If I jump in here, you see the 9 spots. It's not an ad for Channel 9, but it does run through some of the things broadly that this department does. And the Agriculture, Energy and Resources part of the department covers at least 6 of those in various ways. So we are involved obviously in regulation, we are involved in emergency management, we deliver regional services, R&D obviously. There are some parts of the department that are quite new to some of us, and I will touch on one here, which the left-hand middle is the Arts and Culture Services, so Creative Victoria, which is also part of our department. And often staff have said, oh, what's that, where's the connection there? Well, in actual fact, in July, the agriculture portfolio and the Creative Victoria portfolio are in fact holding and running a joint event at our Mildura site. That's through the fisheries part of the agriculture portfolio. So it's kind of interesting that if you look hard enough, you will find a connection. And I guess that's the opportunity and the invitation that this department creates, because we, agriculture, and I'll put the agriculture hat on, are now at the table when decisions around significant investments are made on investment attraction, facilitation, trade missions, and in particular transport investment decisions. So it is we are no longer simply seeking to influence those, which we always did, and in fact our transport colleagues were always happy to receive input, but we, and therefore you, are now at that table. And so I offer you an invitation to send your messages and signals to us, so that you can get your voice and your views put at that table, and we can reflect those when decisions are being made around significant transport investments. Just so you're aware, the agriculture portfolio does cover a few other items. So I mentioned fisheries, forest industries, game, and we also deal with domestic animals as it happens. So it's not just agriculture in the sense that many of us would know it as. In the agriculture area, we're involved in R&D, policy, biosecurity, which is itself typically either a productivity or trade-related matter anyway, and directly involved in trade and facilitation. And part of the question today for horticulture, as it is for other sectors, is what is the right mix of investment and activity to undertake? We do remain close, and always have in any case, with our colleagues who are now in DELP, which is the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. And of particular interest to us there, of course, is the water area, which is in fact run by a former DPI person, and the planning area. And I'm sure those topics will come up today, because they are quite regular topics for this sector and indeed any part of agriculture. We also continue to have very strong relationship through education with those involved in framing the training and skills areas of government. So what I would suggest to you and put to you is that we in agriculture are at the heart of this department, but equally we in agriculture through this department have the ability to influence and connect on behalf of the industry into those other parts of government, whether inside Digita or elsewhere, it doesn't matter. And to that end, and to follow up that commitment, this is the senior team for Agriculture, Energy and Resources. So myself, a plethora of Jameses, James Flintoft in the room today, also Kylie White in the Earth Resources and Energy area. My commitment to you is that if you have an issue and you call any of the people on that sheet, or indeed anyone else who you are used to calling, it is our job, even if we cannot individually solve the issue you have, it is our job to find out who can. So one of the instructions to our people is we don't hang up and we don't say, nah, not me, try again. So again, a commitment to you. If you have an issue, you have a problem, you have a simple question, feel free to call the person you are used to calling. And if you don't have a person you are used to calling, call one of these people and they will find it for you. They may not be the person who handles it themselves, that doesn't matter. They will find it and find the right connection for you. If I jump down now into some of the things we do, this is another listing of some of the activities we do in agriculture. And if you note down there, because my domain also covers energy and resources, so you do have a direct line there as well. And we have over the years had connections between those areas that have been quite fruitful, particularly in relation to supply of energy into things such as water pumping facilities, tariff reform around energy and the like, which is of particular note to some agricultural enterprises. So again, through this department, through what's been brought together, you have a direct line into that, through myself or through others of my staff. Just a little opener into what I guess the rest of today will be about, and you will go through this in more detail, but the way we go through this exercise, we're trying to work out through this how to invest. Where are the areas that we can best invest to make the most impact in line with government policy? This is a Horde industry plan, investment logic. And there's a lot of work goes behind this. This is just the picture at the front. But there's a story to be told about the sort of things that can be done, the sort of outcomes that might be achieved, and therefore what areas might we invest in. I won't go into any more detail on that because it is the topic of the day. But I guess one of the questions and one of the challenges for all of us is when we are thinking about those investments, it is quite easy to think of the list of things we might do, because there's an endless list of things, and they're all good ideas, or nearly all of them. The question that has to be answered is what outcome do you get from them, and what risk profile attaches to those outcomes. We are in a business where you're never quite sure of the answer, and so the pursuit of certainty is probably a fruitless one. But it is certainly important that we understand the risk profile of our investment profile, and when we are co-investing, the risk profile that you're bringing to the table as well. The other starting point here are the investment themes. So there are the 5 themes that we've previously had, and which made sense at the time, and they may well make sense today, but that's an open topic, I guess. You see there, and particularly in item 3, meeting consumer need and preference. That's another, it's another point that being involved in trade brings you very close to. And there can be a temptation, and I'll only own up to it on behalf of government, because I don't think industry would ever fall into this trap, but you can become very production oriented and very oriented on what you would like to be able to produce and what's convenient. And that's a trap we can sometimes fall into. I know when you're a business facing the market, you wouldn't last long if you fell into that trap. But it's a challenge that we need to keep reminding ourselves, and so tracking against that consumer need is so important. And when you're dealing into markets, particularly overseas, and dealing with market barriers that we often confront, that particular point strikes you very quickly, and it's a great reminder for us that just because something can be done doesn't mean the market's going to accept it. And we need to keep that in mind when we're framing our investments. I'll end my presentation there, but can I just end by thanking you all for taking part today. Please take the opportunity to put your views on the table, put them to the staff, to the departmental facilitators at each table, and not just in the sessions, but bother my staff repeatedly through the day. Put your ideas, they love to be bothered. Hands up anyone who doesn't love to be bothered. No, so they're all volunteering for bothering. Please put that on the table, because really the best solutions and the best set of investments only comes through this kind of exercise. If it's left to us in a dark room, we'll make a good fist of it, but we may not quite nail it. So we really appreciate the effort and the interest that you're showing today, and let's make a great value of that. Thank you very much.